Challenger 2. The FV4034 Challenger 2, mod designation CR2, is a third-generation British main battle tank, MBT, in service with the armies of the United Kingdom, Oman, and Ukraine. It was designed by Vickers Defence Systems, now BAE Systems Land and Armaments, as a private venture in 1986, and was an extensive redesign of the company's earlier Challenger 1 tank. The Ministry of Defence ordered a prototype in December 1988. Despite outward similarities to the Challenger 1, design and technological developments mean that only about 3% of components are interchangeable with the earlier vehicle. The Challenger 2 has a crew of 4. The main armament is a L30 A1 120mm, 4.7-in, rifled tank gun, an improved derivative of the L11 gun used on the Chieftain and Challenger 1. 50 rounds of ammunition are carried for the main armament, alongside 4,200 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition for the tank's secondary weapons, AL-94A1EX-34 chain gun mounted coaxially, and AL-37A2, GPMG, machine gun. The turret and hull are protected with second-generation Chobham armor, also known as Dorchester. Powered by a Perkins CV12-6A V12 diesel engine, the tank has a range of 550 kilometers, 340 miles, and maximum road speed of 59 kilometers per hour, 37 miles per hour. The Challenger 2 eventually completely replaced the Challenger 1 in British service. In June 1991, the UK ordered 140 vehicles, followed by a further 268 in 1994. These were delivered between 1994 and 2002. The tank entered operational service with the British Army in 1998 and has since been used in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, and Iraq. To date, the only time a tank has been destroyed during operations was by accidental friendly fire from another Challenger 2 in Basra in 2003. Challenger 2 tanks were also ordered by Oman in the 1990s, with delivery of 38 vehicles being completed in 2001. A number of British Challenger 2 tanks were delivered to Ukraine in 2023. Since the Challenger 2 entered service in 1998, various upgrades have sought to improve its protection, mobility, and lethality. This has culminated in an upgraded design, known as Challenger 3, which is set to gradually replace Challenger 2 from 2027. History. The Challenger 2 is the third vehicle of this name, the first being the A30 Challenger, a World War II design using the Cromwell tank chassis with a 17-pounder gun. The second was the Persian Gulf War era Challenger 1, which was the British Army's main battle tank, MBT, from the early 1980s to the mid-1990s. Vickers Defence Systems began to develop a successor to Challenger 1 as a private venture in 1986. Following the issue of a staff requirement for a next-generation tank, Vickers submitted its plans for the Challenger 2 to the Ministry of Defence, MOD. Vickers' indigenous design was received skeptically by some senior MOD officials, and was evaluated against the American M1 Abrams offered by General Dynamics. After some supportive lobbying by Baron Young, the Thatcher government chose to proceed with the Challenger 2 in December 1988. Vickers received a £90 million contract for a demonstrator vehicle to be delivered by September 1990. The demonstration phase had 3 milestones for progress, with dates of September 1989, March 1990, and September 1990. At the last of these milestones, Vickers was to have met 11 key criteria for the tank's design. The Challenger 1's performance in the Gulf War bolstered the MOD's confidence in British armor. The MOD evaluated the American M1 Abrams, the French Leclerc, and the West German Leopard 2 against the Challenger 2. The MOD rejected these alternatives, and in June 1991 the MOD placed a £520 million order for 127 MBTs and 13 driver training vehicles. An order for a further 259 tanks and 9 driver trainers worth £800 million was placed in 1994. Vickers struggled to market the tank for export. Its one success led to Oman ordering 38 Challenger 2s, 18 in June 1993 and a further 20 in November 1997. Both batches ordered by Oman contain notable differences to the UK version: a larger cooling group and rear towing eyes, running gear and bazooka plates similar to Challenger 1, and a loader's Browning 0.5 caliber M2 heavy machine gun. Deliveries of Challenger 2 to Oman were completed in 2001. Production began in 1993 at 2 primary sites, Elswick, Tyne and Ware in Barnbow, Leeds, with over 250 subcontractors involved. The first tanks were delivered in July 1994. The Challenger 2 failed its acceptance trials in 1994, and it was forced into the Progressive Reliability Growth Trial in 1995. 3 vehicles were tested for 285 simulated battlefield days. The tank was then accepted into service in 1998. An equally important milestone was the In-Service Reliability Demonstration, ISRD, in 1998. The CR2 In-Service Reliability Demonstration, ISRD, milestone was successfully achieved in January 1999. The ISRD took place from September to December 1998. 12 fully crewed tanks were tested at the Bovington test tracks and the Lulworth-Bindon ranges. The tank exceeded all staff requirements. The Challenger 2 entered service with the British Army in June 1998, with the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, with the last delivered in 2002. After the Army 2020 restructuring, only 3 Challenger 2 tank regiments will remain: the Queen's Royal Hussars, the King's Royal Hussars and the Royal Tank Regiment, each of which is the tank regiment of an armoured infantry brigade. A single Army Reserve Regiment, the Royal Wessex Yeomanry, will provide reservist Challenger crews to the regular regiments. The Trojan minefield breaching vehicle and the Titan bridge-laying vehicle based on the chassis of the Challenger 2 were shown in November 2006. 66 are to be supplied by BAE Systems to the Royal Engineers, at a cost of £250 million. A British military document from 2001 indicated that the British Army would not procure a replacement for the Challenger 2 because of a lack of foreseeable conventional threats in the future. However, IHS Jane's 360 reported in September 2015 that following discussions with senior Army officers and procurement officials at DSEI 2015 and the head of the British Army, General Sir Nick Carter, that the British Army was looking at either upgrading the Challenger 2 or outright replacing it. Sources confirmed that the future of the MBT was being considered at the highest levels of the Army. This stemmed from the British Army's concern with the new Russian T-14 Armata main battle tank and the growing ineffectiveness of the aging L30 rifled gun and the limited types of ammunition supported. It was confirmed that numerous armored vehicle manufacturers had discussions with the MOD about a potential replacement for the Challenger 2. Shortly after, the British Army decided that purchasing a new tank would be too expensive and chose to proceed with the Challenger 2 Life Extension Project, LEP. The Challenger 2 is expected to remain in service until 2025. The maintenance contract was let sometime in 2021. As of 2022, maintenance and overhaul of the Challenger 2 is undertaken by the Babcock Defence Support Group. Design authority for the tank is held by Rheinmetall BAE Systems Land, RBSL. Engineering work is to be completed by RBSL and integration work by Babcock. This complicated 2-part project is detailed below. The initial operating capability for the upgraded Challenger 3 tanks is expected by 2027. In May 2021, the UK MOD published a command paper entitled Defence in a Competitive Age. In it, the MOD proposed to retire 79 tanks from the current fleet of 227, with the remaining 148 vehicles upgraded to Challenger 3 status. Supply of Challenger 2 to Ukraine. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine in spring 2022, the then British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, declined Ukrainian requests for Challenger 2 tanks to be part of the military aid packages arranged by the United Kingdom and other NATO countries. British Defence Secretary Ben Wallace had said that the idea wouldn't work. In April 2022, Johnson and his German counterpart Olaf Scholz stated that both Western European allies would withhold their MBTs from the war. Johnson instead chose to deploy British Challenger 2 tanks to Poland to backfill the Polish army and allowing the Polish government to donate Soviet-era T-72s to Ukraine. On January 14, 2023, the British government confirmed reports that in light of the developing situation in Ukraine, it had reversed its position on the supply of Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine. An initial commitment of 14 vehicles was announced, alongside 30 AS-90 155mm self-propelled guns, and armored repair and recovery vehicles. A spokesperson for the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, described the move as reflecting the UK's ambition to intensify support. These tanks were the first Western MBTs offered to Ukraine, supplementing donations of Western-manufactured infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and self-propelled artillery. A number of other countries have subsequently announced that they would supply Ukraine with Western-manufactured MBTs, specifically the American M1 Abrams and German-made Leopard 1 and Leopard 2. On January 29, 2023, the UK Ministry of Defence announced that the first Ukrainian troops had arrived in the UK to begin training on Challenger 2. On February 8, Sunak and Ukrainian President Zelensky paid a visit to Ukrainian soldiers at Lulworth Camp where they were being trained on Challenger 2 tanks by British soldiers from the Royal Tank Regiment and the Queen's Royal Hussars. Sunak used the opportunity to reaffirm the British intention to have the first Challenger 2 tanks delivered to Ukraine by March 2023. On March 27, 2023, the UK Ministry of Defence announced that Ukrainian tank crews had completed their training in the UK on Challenger 2 tanks and had returned to Ukraine. Oleksiy Reznikov, the Ukrainian Minister of Defence, confirmed on the same day that the first Challenger 2 tanks had arrived in Ukraine. Posting a picture on Twitter, the minister called the Challenger 2 as a work of military art. The announcement coincided with the delivery of Leopard 2 tanks and Marder infantry fighting vehicles from Germany, and Stryker and Cougar from the USA. Design. Armament. The Challenger 2 is equipped with a 120mm, 4.7 in, 55 caliber long L30A1 tank gun, the successor to the L11 gun used on Chieftain and Challenger 1. The gun is made from high-strength electroslag remelting (ESR) steel with a chromium alloy lining. Like earlier British 120mm guns, it is insulated by a thermal sleeve. It is fitted with a muzzle reference system and fume extractor, and is controlled by an all-electric control and stabilization system. The turret has a rotation time of 9 seconds through 360 degrees. Uniquely among NATO main battle tank guns, the L30A1 is rifled, and along with its predecessor, the Royal Ordnance L11A5, the only third-generation main battle tank guns to use a rifled barrel. This is because the British Army continues to place a premium on the use of high-explosive squash head (HESH) rounds in addition to armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot rounds. HESH rounds have a longer range, up to 8 kilometers or 5 miles further, than APFSDS, and are more effective against buildings and thin-skinned vehicles. 49 main armament rounds are carried in the turret and hull. These are a mix of L27A1 APFSDS, also referred to as Charm 3, L31 HESH and L34 white phosphorus smoke rounds, depending on the situation. As with earlier versions of the 120mm gun, the propellant charges are loaded separately from the shell or KE projectile. A combustible rigid charge is used for the APFSDS rounds and a combustible hemicylindrical bad charge for the HESH and smoke rounds. An electrically fired vent tube is used to initiate firing of the main armament rounds. The main armament ammunition is described to be three-part ammunition, consisting of the projectile, charge, and vent tube. The separation of ammunition pieces aids in ensuring lower chances of unfired ammunition detonating prematurely. The Challenger 2 is also armed with AL-94A1 EX-34 7.62mm chain gun coaxially to the left of the main gun, and a 7.62mm L-37A2 GPMG machine gun mounted on a pintle on the loader's hatch ring. 4,200 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition are carried. The Challenger can also mount a Leonardo Enforcer remote control weapon system, bearing a 7.62mm L-37A2 GPMG machine gun, a 12.7mm heavy machine gun or a 40mm automatic grenade launcher. Fire control and sights. The digital fire control computer from Computing Devices Co. of Canada contains two 32-bit processors with a MIL STD1553B data bus. It has capacity for additional systems, such as a battlefield information control system. The Commander has a panoramic Sagem VS 580-10 gyrostabilized sight with laser rangefinder. The elevation range is plus 35 degrees to minus 35 degrees. The Commander's station is equipped with 8 periscopes for 360 degrees vision. The Thermal Observation and Gunnery Sight 2, TOGS 2, from Thales, provides night vision. The thermal image is displayed on both the gunner's and commander's sights and monitors. The gunner has a stabilized primary sight using a laser rangefinder, with a range of 200 meters, 660 feet, to 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles. The driver's position is equipped with a Thales Optronics Image Intensifying Passive Driving Periscope, PDP, for night driving in a rear-view thermal camera. Protection. The Challenger 2 is a heavily armored and well-protected tank. The turret and hull are protected by second-generation Chabham armor, also known as Dorchester, the details of which are classified but which is said to have a mass efficiency more than twice that of rolled homogeneous armor against high-explosive anti-tank, heat, projectiles. Crew safety was paramount in the design. It uses a solid-state electric drive for turret and gun motion, instead of hydraulic systems that can leak fluid into the crew compartment. Explosive reactive armor kits and additional bar armor may be fitted as needed. The nuclear, biological, and chemical (NBC) protection system is located in the turret bustle. The tank's shape is designed to minimize its radar signature. On each side of the turret are 5 L8 smoke grenade dischargers. The Challenger 2 can create smoke by injecting diesel fuel into the exhaust manifolds. Drive system. The tank's drive system comprises engine, Perkins 26.1 liter, 60 degrees V, twin turbocharged, CV12-6A 4-stroke, 4-valve per cylinder, pushrod, direct injection diesel engine delivering 1,200 brake horsepower, 890 kilowatts, at 2,300 RPM. Torque 4,126 Newton-meters at 1,700 RPM. The engine and gearbox are controlled by a Petard's Vehicle Integrated Control System, VICS. Gearbox, David Brown Sanasalo TN54E epicyclical transmission, 6 FWD, 2 rev, rated at 1,200 brake horsepower and upgradable to 1,500 brake horsepower. Suspension, Horstman Defence Systems Second Generation Hydrogas Suspension Units, HSU. Track, William Cook Defence Hydraulically Adjustable TR6414 FS double pin. Maximum speed, 37 miles per hour, 60 kilometers per hour, on road, 25 miles per hour, 40 kilometers per hour, cross-country. Range, 342 miles or 550 kilometers on road with external fuel, 156 miles, 250 kilometers, cross-country on internal fuel. The tank is fitted with an Extel Systems Waddell Auxiliary Power Unit, an APU, also referred to as a Generating Unit Engine, GUE, based on a 38 kilowatts Perkins P404C22 diesel engine. It has a 600A electrical output, which can be used to power the vehicle's electrical systems when it is stationary and the main engine is switched off. This replaces the Perkins P4.108 engine fitted when the tank was first introduced. The use of an APU allows fuel consumption to be reduced and lowers the audio and thermal signature of the vehicle. By 2013, the British Army had, at various events featuring the Challenger 2, begun to state the on-road range as 550 kilometers as opposed to an earlier stated value of 450 kilometers. They also publicly stated a maximum road speed of 59 kilometers per hour while equipped with 15 tons of additional modules. Crew and accommodation. The British Army maintained its requirement for a 4-man crew, including a loader, after risk analysis of the incorporation of an automatic loader suggested that autoloaders reduced battlefield survivability. Mechanical failure and the time required for repair were prime concerns. Similar to every British tank since the Centurion, and most other British AFVs, Challenger 2 contains a boiling vessel, BV, for water, for use preparing and heating food and drink. Maintenance. Challenger 2 tanks require 2 sets of tools, as the hull is built using imperial measurements and the turret is built to metric measurements. Operational history. The tank was well armored, but in an operational theater it's not the case that you can have absolute protection. This was not in any way new technology. The device involved was the same type of shaped charge that we have seen used very regularly. No one has ever said Challenger tanks are impenetrable. We have always said that a big enough bomb will defeat any armor in any vehicle. The first operational deployments of Challenger 2 tanks were to support peacekeeping operations in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo. Challenger 2 was first used in combat in March 2003 during the invasion of Iraq. The 120 tanks of 7th Armored Brigade, part of 1st Armored Division, went into action around Basra. The type saw extensive use during the siege of the city, providing fire support to the British forces and knocking out Iraqi tanks, mainly T-54 divided by 55s. The tanks deployed to Iraq had been desertized in an effort to avoid the difficulties that had been identified in Challenger 2 during Exercise Safe Sari A2 in Oman 18 months earlier. The addition of sand filters and other modifications through a series of urgent operational requirements substantially improved the platform's operational availability. During the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the Challenger 2 tanks suffered no tank losses to Iraqi fire. In one encounter within an urban area, a Challenger 2 came under attack from irregular forces with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs. The driver's sight was damaged, and while attempting to back away under the commander's directions, the other sights were damaged and the tank threw its tracks, entering a ditch. It was hit by 14 RPG-7s from close range and a Milan anti-tank guided missile. The crew survived, safe within the tank until it was recovered for repairs, the worst damage being to the sighting system. It was back in operation 6 hours later. According to the British Army, one Challenger 2 operating near Basra survived being hit by 70 RPGs in another incident.
March 25, 2003, a friendly fire, blue-on-blue, incident in Basra in which one Challenger 2 of the Black Watch Battle Group, 2nd Royal Tank Regiment, mistakenly engaged another Challenger 2 of the Queen's Royal Lancers after detecting what was believed to be an enemy flanking maneuver on thermal equipment.
The attacking tank's second HESH round hit the open commander's hatch lid of the QRL tank, sending hot fragments into the turret, killing 2 crew members. The hit caused a fire that eventually ignited the stowed ammunition, destroying the tank. This is the only Challenger 2 to be destroyed on operations. August 2006, an RPG-29 capable of firing a tandem charge penetrated the frontal lower underbelly armor of a Challenger 2 commanded by Captain Thomas Williams of the Queen's Royal Hussars southeast of Al-Amara, southern Iraq. Its driver, Trooper Sean Chance, lost part of his foot in the blast. 2 more of the crew were slightly injured. Chance was able to reverse the vehicle 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers, to the regimental aid post despite his injuries. The incident was not made public until May 2007, in response to accusations that crews had been told the tank was impervious to the insurgents' weapons. The mod said, "We have never claimed that the Challenger 2 is impenetrable." Since then, the explosive reactive armor has been replaced with Chabam armor and the steel underbelly lined with armor as part of the Street Fighter upgrade as a direct response to this incident.
April 6, 2007, in Basra, Iraq, a shaped charge from an improvised explosive device, IED, penetrated the underside of a tank, resulting in the driver losing a leg and causing minor injuries to another soldier.
To help prevent incidents of this nature, Challenger 2s have been upgraded with a new passive armor package, including the use of add-on armor manufactured by Rafael Advanced Defence Systems of Israel. When deployed on operations, the Challenger 2 is now normally upgraded to Theater Entry Standard, TS, which includes a number of modifications including armor and weapon system upgrades. Since 2017, the UK has regularly deployed Challenger 2 tanks, alongside Warrior infantry fighting vehicles, to Estonia as part of Operation Cabret. The 2 squadrons of tanks currently deployed form part of the British contribution to the NATO Enhanced Forward Presence multinational battle group in the Baltics. In July 2022, a squadron of 14 Challenger 2 tanks of the Queen's Royal Hussars were sent to Poland on an initial 6-month deployment. The squadron is to be integrated into a Polish battlegroup under Polish command. The move is designed to backfill Polish capability after Polish T-72 tanks were donated to Ukraine. CLIP. The Challenger Lethality Improvement Program, CLIP, was a program to replace the current L30-01 rifled gun with the smoothbore Rheinmetall 120mm gun currently used in the Leopard 2 and M1 Abrams. The use of a smoothbore weapon would have allowed Challenger 2 to use NATO standard ammunition, including tungsten-based kinetic energy penetrators which do not have the same political and environmental objections as depleted uranium rounds. The production lines for rifled 120mm ammunition in the UK have been closed for some years, so existing stocks of ammunition for the L30-01 are finite. A single Challenger 2 was fitted with the L55 and underwent trials in January 2006. The smoothbore gun was the same length as the L30-01 and was fitted with the rifled gun's cradle, thermal sleeve, bore evacuator and muzzle reference system. Early trials apparently revealed that the German tungsten DM53 round was more effective than the depleted uranium Charm 3. The ammunition storage and handling arrangements had to be changed to cater for the single-piece smoothbore rounds, instead of the separate loading rifled rounds. Other improvements were also considered, including a regenerative NBC protection system. HIP. Updates to the automotive components of Challenger 2 are being undertaken as part of the ongoing Heavy Armor Automotive Improvement Program, HAIP, which is expected to continue until 2031, and expected to align with the Challenger 3 program. The HAIP program will be made to existing in-service Challenger 2 tanks to increase their mobility and stability, both of which are critical to providing the foundation for the new turret and systems that will upgrade the vehicle to a Challenger 3. HAIP has already led to upgrades to the air filtration system, through the use of cleanable air filters with increased operating life, which were tested in exercise-safe SAR A3 in October 2018. The HAIP program, awarded to BAE Systems, was intended to apply a common engine and suspension standard to Challenger 2, the DTT, CRARRV, Titan and Trojan, improving reliability. However, the Minister of State for Defense announced in April 2022 that a common engine build standard will be applied to Challenger 2, Challenger 3, and CRARRV only after a new refrigerant is found for the CTCS, Crew Temperature Control System. In terms of the powertrain, BAE Systems were evaluating whether to uprate the existing CV-12 engine or swap this for alternative designs. The proposed CV-12 upgrade by Caterpillar Defence would fit electronically controlled common rail fuel injection and introduce engine health monitoring, HUMS. This would increase the maximum power output from 1,200 brake horsepower at 2,300 RPM to 1,500 brake horsepower at 2,400 RPM, reduce battlefield smoke emissions, and improve fleet reliability and availability. Since this information was released, February 2019, no further information in the public domain has been released regarding fitting common rail fuel injection and HUMS. The engines and transmission units have themselves also been remanufactured in recent years, with parts and equipment also purchased to convert CV-12-6A engines to CV-12-8A build standard. Publications in support of tender procurement for HAIP indicate that a new CV-12-9A engine build standard will be used for the Challenger 2s upgraded to become Challenger 3s, and for CRARRV. Work to update the base Challenger 2 hull and automotive components, undertaken by DNS, RBSL, and Babcock, commenced in July 2021 in advance of these being converted to Challenger 3s. Equipment replaced during HAIP will be checked for serviceability, repair if required, and returned for reuse in the existing Challenger 2 fleet. The hulls will also undergo ultrasonic testing, weld repairs, and repainting. The overall scope of HAIP includes upgraded CV-12-9A engines for Challenger 3 and CRARV, third-generation hydrogas suspension, new hydraulic track tensioners, HTT, with inline accumulators, improved electric cold start system, intake manifold heater, unspecified new components fitted to improve the transmissions, new main engine air intake filters, improved main engine/transmission cooling, fitting new high-efficiency radiators, 596 sets, and fans, 294 triple fan sets with mountings and drive systems. These new more modern assemblies will increase cooling capacity and reduce engine fuel cutback mode, where engine power is reduced if cooling capacity for the main engine and transmission is exceeded, through improved airflow efficiency. The contract for the new cooling fans has been awarded to Amatec Air Technology Group, the suppliers of the current design, and the contract for the new radiators awarded to Caterpillar. CSP/LEP/Challenger 3. In 2005, the mod recognized a need for a Capability Sustainment Program, CSP, to extend the service life of the Challenger 2 into the mid-2030s and upgrade its mobility, lethality, and survivability. The CSP was planned to be complete by 2020 and was to combine all the upgrades from CLIP, including the fitting of a 120mm smoothbore gun. By 2014, the CSP program had been replaced by the Life Extension Program, LEP, which shared a similar scope of replacing obsolete components and extending the tank's service life from 2025 to 2035. However, the 120mm smoothbore gun had seemingly been abandoned. In 2015, the British Army provided an insight into the scope of the LEP, dividing it into 4 key areas, namely surveillance and target acquisition, upgrades to the commander's primary site and gunner's primary site, as well as the replacement of the thermal observation and gunnery sites, TOGs, with third-generation thermal imaging. Weapon control system, upgrades to the fire control computer, fire control panel and gun processing unit. Mobility, upgrades including third-generation hydrogas suspension, improved air filtration, CV-12 common rail fuel injection, transmission and cooling. Electronic architecture, upgrades to the gunner's control handles, video distribution architecture, generic vehicle architecture compliant interfaces, increased onboard processing and improved human-machine interface. The mod also began assessing active protection systems, APS, on the Challenger 2, including MUS and Rheinmetall's ROSI Rapid Obscurant System. In August 2016, the mod awarded assessment phase contracts to several companies for the Life Extension Program. These included Team Challenger 2, a consortium led by BAE Systems and including General Dynamics UK, CMI Defence and Ricardo plc, Rheinmetall and Lockheed Martin UK. In November, the mod shortlisted 2 teams led by BAE Systems and Rheinmetall to compete for the LEP, which was then estimated to be worth £650 million, $802 million. In October 2018, BAE Systems unveiled its proposed Challenger 2 LEP technology demonstrator, the Black Knight. The new improvements included a Safran Paseo commander's sight, Leonardo thermal imager for the gunner and Leonardo DNVS-4 night sight. The turret also received modifications to improve the speed of traverse and to provide greater space as well as regenerative braking to generate and store power. Other enhancements included a laser warning system and an active protection system. Months later, in January 2019, Rheinmetall unveiled its proposal, which included the development of a completely new turret with fully digital electronic architecture, day and night sights for the commander and gunner, and a Rheinmetall L55 120mm smoothbore gun. Whilst a more substantial upgrade than Black Knight, the turret was developed on Rheinmetall's initiative and was not funded by the UK mod, nor was it part of the mod's LEP requirements. In June 2019, BAE Systems and Rheinmetall formed a joint venture company, based in the UK, named Rheinmetall BAE Systems Land, RBSL. Despite the merger, the company was still expected to present 2 separate proposals for the LEP contract. However, at DSEI 2019, RBSL instead opted to only showcase the Rheinmetall proposal. In October 2020, the mod argued against buying a new main battle tank from overseas instead of pursuing the Challenger 2 LEP, stating that an upgraded Challenger 2 would be comparable, and in certain areas superior to a Leopard 2 or Abrams.
On March 22, 2021, the mod published its long-awaited command paper, Defence in a Competitive Age, which confirmed the British Army's plans to upgrade 148 Challenger 2 tanks and designate them Challenger 3. The mod confirmed the contract with RBSL had been signed, valued at £800 million, $1 billion, on May 7, 2021.
Rheinmetall's more extensive upgrade proposal, including the new 120mm smoothbore gun, had been accepted. The initial operating capability for the upgraded tanks is expected by 2027, with full operation capability expected to be other in-service upgrades.
On December 15, 2017, BAE Systems was awarded a contract to maintain the Challenger 2's thermal imaging system as part of a £15.4 million interim solution separate to the LEP.
In October 2019, it was announced that Thales would be supplying their Catherine megapixel MP thermal imaging camera variants. Challenger 2 driver training tank. The Challenger 2 driver training tank, DTT, is based on the Challenger 2 hull. The turret has been replaced with a fixed-weighted superstructure to accommodate an instructor and up to 4 trainees. The design is similar to the Challenger 1 derived Challenger training tank, CTT. Weighting the superstructure replicates the weight, and therefore also the driving characteristics, of the standard tank in operational service. 22 DTTs are in British service, with 2 in service with Oman. Titan. The Titan armored bridge layer is based on aspects of the Challenger 2 running gear and replaced the Chieftain Armored Vehicle Launched Bridge, CHAVLB. The Titan came into service in 2006 with the Royal Engineers, with 33 in service. Titan can carry a single 26-meter-long bridge or 2 12-meter-long bridges. It can also be fitted with a bulldozer blade. Trojan. The Trojan Armored Vehicle Royal Engineers is a combat engineering vehicle designed as a replacement for the Chieftain AVRE, CHAVRE. It uses the Challenger 2 chassis, and carries an articulated excavator arm, a dozer blade, and attachment rails for fascines. Entering service in 2007, 33 were produced. Challenger 2E. The Challenger 2E is an export version of the tank. It has a new integrated weapon control and battlefield management system, which includes a gyro-stabilized panoramic Sagem MVS 580-day/thermal sight for the commander and Sagem Savin 15 gyro-stabilized day/thermal sight for the gunner, both with eye-safe laser rangefinder. This allows hunter/killer operations with a common engagement sequence. An optional servo-controlled overhead weapons platform can be slaved to the commander's sight to allow operation independent from the turret. The power pack has been replaced by a new 1,500 horsepower, 1,100 kilowatts Euro power pack with a transversely mounted MTU MT883 diesel engine coupled to Rank HSWL 295TM automatic transmission. The increase in both vehicle performance and durability is significant. The smaller volume but more powerful Euro power pack additionally incorporates a standard cooling system and air intake filtration system proved in desert use. The free space in the hull is available for ammunition stowage or for fuel, increasing the vehicle's range to 550 kilometers, 340 miles. This power pack was previously installed on the French Leclerc tanks delivered to the UAE as well as the recovery tank version of the Leclerc in service with the French Army. Further developed versions of the Euro power pack have more recently been installed in the latest serial-produced Korean K2 Black Panther tank. BES announced in 2005 that development and export marketing of 2E would stop. This has been linked by the media to the failure of the 2E to be selected for the Hellenic Army in 2002, a competition won by the Leopard 2. CRARV. The Challenger Armored Repair and Recovery Vehicle, CRARV, is an armored recovery vehicle based on the Challenger 1 hull, designed to repair and recover damaged tanks on the battlefield. Ordered in 1985, and delivered between 1988 and 1993, the CRARV has subsequently been updated to use a Challenger 2 powertrain consisting of a CV12-5C/6C engine with TN54E transmission. The British Army ordered 80 vehicles. 4 CRARVs were purchased by Oman to complement their acquisition of Challenger 2 tanks. CRARVs were first deployed in action in the lead-up to the First Gulf War, Operation Granby in 1991. They were subsequently deployed during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, Operation Telek in 2003, alongside standard Challenger 2 MBTs. Operators. Current operators. United Kingdom, British Army, 386 delivered, 227 operational, plus 22 driver training units. Oman, Royal Army of Oman, 18 purchased in 1993. Ukraine, Ukrainian Ground Forces, In January 2023, it was confirmed that the United Kingdom will supply Ukraine with 14 Challenger 2 main battle tanks along with support vehicles. On January 29, the first Ukrainian troops arrived in the UK to begin training on Challenger 2 tanks. These troops completed their training on March 27 and returned to Ukraine. The first Challenger 2 tanks were delivered to Ukraine on the same date. Accidents and incidents. In July 2001, the commander and operator loader of a Challenger 2 were killed in an accident in the training area on Salisbury Plain, near Imber. Their tank rolled over after falling off the edge of a track, crushing both men who suffered fatal injuries. At the subsequent inquest, the jury returned a verdict of accidental death and called for improvements in training given to inexperienced tank crews.
On June 1, 2015, a Challenger 2 on exercise in Lippe district, near Paderborn, Germany, crushed the car of a learner driver who pulled out in front of a column of British armored vehicles.
The driver was unhurt.
On June 14, 2017, a Challenger 2 from the Royal Tank Regiment suffered an ammunition explosion during live firing exercises at the Castlemartin Range in Pembrokeshire.
The tank was firing 120mm practice shells with a standard propellant charge. The explosion critically injured the 4-man crew, with 2 later dying of their wounds in hospital. The incident resulted in all British Army tank firing exercises being suspended for 48 hours while the cause of the explosion was investigated. It was later determined that a bolt vent axial (BVA) seal assembly had been removed during an earlier exercise and had not been replaced at the time of the incident, allowing explosive gases to enter the turret space. The lack of a written process for removal and replacement of the seal assembly meant that the crew at the time of the incident were unaware of its absence, and it was also noted that inadequate consideration had been given during the production of the A30 gun as to whether it could be fired without the seal assembly. A second explosion that occurred during the incident was attributed to the detonation of bag charges that had not been stowed in the internal ammunition bins, as required by correct procedure. Classified specifications leak. In July 2021, excerpts of the tank's Army Equipment Support publication, i.e. the user manual, containing technical specifications of the vehicle, were posted on the official forums of the war simulation game War Thunder. The poster, allegedly a Challenger 2 tank commander, said he had done so in the hope that developer Gaijin Entertainment would modify the performance of the in-game tank to match the specifications detailed in the document. The leaked excerpts of the AESP document had been edited to appear as though it had been declassified under the UK's Freedom of Information Act 2000. However, the mod confirmed that the information was in fact still classified, and that if Gaijin were to disseminate the tank's specifications, they would be liable to prosecution under the Official Secrets Act. Due to these possible legal penalties, Gaijin refused to handle or utilize the leaked specifications. Future replacement. Following Britain's exit from the European Union, early in 2021 the United Kingdom entered talks to be allowed into the European main battle tank project as an observer. This may have a bearing on a future replacement of the Challenger 3. Vehicles on display. Many of the pre-production prototype Challenger 2 vehicles are on display in the United Kingdom. The third and fifth prototype vehicles are displayed at the Tank Museum, Bovington, Dorset. The fourth prototype is a Gate Guardian outside the Royal Armoured Corps Gunnery School, Lulworth Camp, Dorset. The seventh prototype vehicle has been plinth outside the National Army Museum in Chelsea, London, since 2021. This vehicle also appeared in Vickers' original sales marketing. The eighth prototype is in the teaching collection of the Defence Academy, Shrivenham, Oxfordshire. The ninth prototype vehicle has been displayed outside the Discovery Museum in Newcastle upon Tyne since 2014. It was previously displayed outside the Vickers Ellswick plant in the city. A Challenger 2, likely a prototype, is plinth outside Allenby Barracks, Bovington Camp, Dorset. The prototype CRARRV is on display at the Rhine Museum at Maud Lineham, Wiltshire. In 2021, the then UK Minister for Defence Procurement, Jeremy Quinn, acknowledged in a written answer that were no current plans to dispose of a production vehicle to a museum, but that the UK MOD were aware that the Tank Museum intend to secure one for their collection.